see you all, even though I can't see you, which is a bit strange because normally on Zoom, at least I know that there's people there, but I'm sure you are. It's lovely to be here. My name is Louise Smith. I am director of a company called Do-BeMindful, and we primarily work with schools and with nurseries. We have lots of Glasgow schools and nurseries involved with us. And but we also do, we work with parents. We have an online programme that schools that sign up with us can get for free for their parents. So the programme, that I've developed, my background is I'm a yoga and a mindfulness meditation teacher. And in 2017, I created a holistic online programme that aims to improve well-being. So well-being of teachers and support staff and anyone really that works in a school or a nursery, well-being of children, and then also parents. So the idea is that it's very much about helping the community because there's so many people struggling, and often when we need help, we aren't getting that help. We're on waiting lists. We're unable to get that help. So what I want to do is to help people to gain the tools, I suppose, and gain the techniques that can often and at times help themselves. Okay, so so at the moment we have 2,000 educators that have gone through our programme. We've only had about 180 parents, so not many parents at all, but that's mainly because I think the schools and the nurseries that we work with are just at the stage where they are ready, they feel confident enough with their own mindfulness practice and to then start involving parents really. So we do, just one more thing about the programme, we kind of measure impact on well-being. We do sort of pre-post when it comes to the kids or the adults. And what started off with something that I hoped would help people to become more mindful, actually we can see from it that it improves sleep, it's improving relationships, so not just relationships at work but relationships at home. It's improving the way that people feel about themselves, and that's pretty awesome. So so tonight I am going to start to share my screen with you so you can see what we're up to. Okay, so tonight, so tonight we're going to talk about a few things. Obviously you're here because you're interested in some way. It might be for yourself as a parent. It might be that you're concerned or you're interested for your children. You're thinking, how can I get them to calm down? That's normally one of the reasons that everyone's interested. Or how can I get them to pay attention? But really, mindfulness practice, it helps us to develop certain skills, and the skills are all listed around this flower. So you've got attention, so it very much helps to improve attention and awareness, self-awareness, awareness of others. Kindness, a big part of mindfulness is heartfulness, so it's about being kind to other people and to ourselves, which is often a bit more tricky. So self-compassion, managing your emotions, our ability to self-regulate, our ability to manage really strong emotions, especially during a time like this, of uncertainty, not knowing what is going to come in the next, few months or years or whatever. So you can see there's a number of skills that are developed when we practice mindfulness, and that's what I thought we would kind of look at tonight was. I suppose get the basics right. So look at what is mindfulness, get a really clear definition, understand what mindfulness means, because the word is bandied around now, isn't it? Everybody's being mindful, everyone and their dog, when you look on Instagram. So we'll get clear on what mindfulness is and how you practice. And then I thought we would look at why mindfulness or other contemplative practices might be something that's of interest right now, given that most of our kids are watching a huge amount of technology, given that we're aware of adverse childhood experiences and trauma and the impact that adversity can have on the developing brain. And also because of things like COVID and this time of uncertainty and fear. So why mindfulness practice might help with that, if you like. And then we'll look at the benefits of mindfulness. So there's roughly about 40 years worth of research when it comes to adults and mindfulness, and around about 15 years of research for children. So we'll look at them, we'll look at what the main benefits are. We'll then look at the science of mindfulness. So I'm not a neuroscientist, nowhere near it, but we'll look at the main changes that actually happen, the physical changes that happen in the brain after a certain amount of practice, and consider what that is and the impacts that has. Then we'll do a practice together. We'll do a 5-minute practice to start, and then probably if we've got some time towards the end, we'll do another 5 minutes. So this is really so that you get an experiential introduction to mindfulness. It's not just me, talking at you about what mindfulness is. It's you feeling it, which is the whole point. Mindfulness is about kind of shifting from being up here and always thinking and worrying and into our bodies, into our hearts. So it's a real shift, if you like. And then, I thought we would look at how, as parents, we can introduce mindfulness at home in a way that's fun, in a way that doesn't take too much time, in a way that you'll enjoy and they'll enjoy as well. Okay. So, what is mindfulness? Well, if you Google mindfulness, there's loads and loads of different definitions, but the definition that I'm using is by a man called Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's kind of like the godfather of mindfulness. So Jon Kabat-Zinn, he pioneered mindfulness about 40 years ago from his stress reduction clinic at the University of Chicago in Massachusetts. So he developed an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And what he did was he recruited patients who were struggling with chronic pain. So these were patients that could no longer be, helped, if you like, with traditional medicine. And he took them onto his 8-week program and looked at how, by practicing mindfulness, it helped improve their pain. So their physical pain, but then through that, it was noticeable that it was more than that. It was about an improvement in their quality of life, an improvement in anxiety levels and depression, in quality of sleep. So the way that Jon Kabat-Zinn defines mindfulness is that it's an awareness that arises when you pay attention in a particular way. So it's when you pay attention on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So right now, it's about looking up from your screen. Just look away from your computer and just spend a few moments looking around the room. Okay, so noticing where you are, noticing that you're sitting. You might not be sitting, you might be doing the ironing. But just take a few moments, notice. And see if you can feel, if you're sitting down, if you can feel the back of your thighs connected to the chair. Or maybe your feet on the floor. Or you can notice where your hands are placed. So bring your attention to what you feel. Maybe scan down your body. How do your shoulders feel? How's your neck? So becoming aware, noticing. What sounds can you hear where you are? Listen. So we're bringing our attention to our senses when we're practicing mindfulness. We're consciously and purposefully becoming aware of what's going on, and not just what's going on, in our outer world, if you like, what we can see and we can hear and we can smell and we can taste, but also what's going on inside. So being aware of what we're thinking, being aware of habitual kind of thinking patterns. I used to say all the time, how come I always meet guys like this? How come I'm always in these relationships? Mindfulness practice allowed me to see what I was. So becoming aware of how we're thinking and how we're feeling. So it's not difficult. Sharon Salzberg, I put a quote here by Sharon Salzberg. She says, mindfulness isn't difficult. We just need to remember to do it. I would actually argue it is very difficult. Bringing your attention to something, whether it's something you're looking at or listening to, you're lucky when you start practicing if you can concentrate on it, focus on it for a few seconds. And children are exactly the same. When they start to practice, it's tough and your mind wanders and you think a lot and you just constantly bring your attention back to whatever you're focusing on. That is, if you like, the act of mindfulness. So it's an awareness. And the way that we practice mindfulness, there's two ways really. One is formally. So we'll do that together in a little while. And that is when we bring our attention, we come into a posture, maybe a seated posture. We could be standing, we could be lying down. And we bring our attention to one thing. So we'll call that an anchor. So we're going to use the breath. So we're going to use the breath as an anchor. And if you imagine an anchor on a boat, an anchor stops the boat from moving away. So when we focus on our anchor spot, whether that's our breath or sounds or something that we're holding or whatever that might be, we're using that as a way of anchoring us into this present moment, into what's happening right here, right now, if you like. So that's a formal practice. And what we encourage, the parents and the teachers to do that do our course is roughly 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, or a combined 20 minutes every day. And normally when they start out, it's kind of like, I don't have time, to practice mindfulness. It's another thing I've got to do. It's another thing to add on to my list of stuff. And I suppose one of the biggest barriers is probably that. It's probably time. It's, I don't have 10 minutes. But actually, the same people, if we're all honest, will have 10 minutes to scroll, aimlessly through Facebook. We find 10 minutes to chat to a friend that needs it, or, do something with our kids. So we try to convince and argue that you can find 10 minutes. But I suppose it's kind of shifting that mindset that actually my mental health is really important, and I will find 10 minutes to focus on that and to strengthen that attention muscle, to strengthen that awareness, to strengthen that resilience, if you like. The other way of practicing mindfulness is informally. So that is when you might bring your attention to something that you're doing, washing the dishes, for example, and you're aware, you notice the temperature of the water and you feel the bubbles on your hands, and you almost slow things down slightly and you notice what happens when you wash the dishes. And actually washing the dishes isn't that bad when you're aware and noticing what you're doing. I think the thought of washing the dishes and thinking about what you're just about to do, and the fact you've now got to go and do the bath and everything else, that can often be tougher than bringing your attention to washing the dishes. So we tend to be quite naturally mindful when we're enjoying something. So whatever you're into, for me it's yoga. It's easy to be mindful when I'm practicing yoga. But unfortunately, we can't do things that we love all the time. And, in an average day, I don't know what percent, 90% of the time, we're doing things that we might not particularly love. and we can be on automatic pilot a lot. So we can be really unaware of what's going on. We can be lost in thoughts. I think the University of Chicago, I don't know how they did this, but they found that the average human has 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts a day. And if you're unaware, if you like, of those thoughts, you know, you're not aware of them, then they can be, especially if you're having very anxious thoughts or very depressive thoughts, and that can take a toll physically, you know, on your body, on the hormones that are released, on how you feel, on your well-being. So the more you can practice, basically, the better. And it's a combination of doing your formal practice as well as bringing your attention to what's happening in the present moment, you know, as much or as best as you can. Okay. So why might we want to start a practice, either, you know, for ourselves and our own mental health and well-being, or, you know, for our children, or for both? And normally at this point I would ask you guys, what do you think? But you know, I'll cut to the chase because we're not all in the same room and stuff. So technology has huge benefits, and, you know, we'll never take any of them away, but it's, you know, it's great. We can sit and bank from our bed, or, you know, order stuff and all the rest of it. But there are some real negative sides to this digital age. And I think, you know, wherever you are, just look around, and everybody now is just scrolling, and they're constantly, you know, that constant stimulus affects our brain, and we become, or I'm first to admit, you know, I think a lot of us as parents, a lot of us as adults are struggling with addiction to our phone. I don't know about you, but my husband and I will be watching something on TV, and the minute that an advert comes on, it's like, you know, and we go from Facebook to ordering stuff to whatever, and then back down, or get distracted while something's on, and then you're like, oh, what happened there? What was that all about? At least, though, we as adults, you know, or I remember anyway, having a lot of unstructured play. You know, I remember being 14, 15, and I was still out in rollerblades and still on my bike. But this generation Z, they've been kind of born into this constant stimulus. They've been born, you know, post Google, if you like. And this has had technology, and this constant stimulus has had a physical impact on the development of our children's brains. Their ability to pay attention is far, far less than it used to be. On top of that, we know about the effects that trauma has on the brain. So I don't know how much research or how much you guys know, but adverse childhood experiences, if you've not heard about it, there is a wonderful film called Resilience that you can watch. I don't know if you could do a showing, or you might have done it already, Leanne. But it kind of looks at how trauma, so if you've gone through certain things, whether it's, you know, parents divorcing, or living with a parent with mental health problems, or a parent in prison, or whatever, how these adversities can affect the developing brain. And it's hugely interesting. And with that awareness, and knowing that in an average classroom, 1 in 4 children have had at least one ACE, adverse childhood experience. So knowing that affects, you know, the development of the brain. What it can do is keep them, if you like, or encourage their stress response. So the amygdala, which is in the lower part of the brain, to be very active, and they could be very hypervigilant, or they could be very, you know, we talk about fight, flight, freeze, which I'll come on to. So they might be quite hypervigilant, or they may actually be very subdued. So anyway, we'll come on to that in a sec. On top of all that, we've got COVID, we've got lockdown, we've got lots of change and lots of fear. And depending on where you were before lockdown, when it comes to your window of tolerance, which is kind of like this stress curve, depending on where you started, actually will determine how you've coped with lockdown. So a lot of people are like, oh, loved it. I've had the best time. It's been brilliant. But actually, they may have been, really far down in this window of stress tolerance, if you like. Whereas someone that's possibly, I don't know, going through a divorce or having a tough time might not be handling it as well. And that's the same, for our children. So right now, our mental health statistics, they speak for themselves. They're awful for adults, awful for children. And mindfulness is it's an early intervention and prevention tool, if you like. I don't really like calling it tool because it's more than a tool. It's so much more than a tool. But it's a way that, you don't have to be ill or struggling to practice mindfulness. It can be a way of improving performance. It can be a way of preventing kind of struggles, if you like, when it comes to your mental health. So I think it's something that, and I know I would say that because I'm a mindfulness teacher and yoga teacher, but it's definitely something that I think can really improve well-being. And so it's something that right now we might consider introducing, into our lives. So, and just on that note, I'll tell you a little bit about why I got into mindfulness, because I think, probably that there'll be bits of my story that you may relate to. So, I was a single mum for quite a long time. My relationship was pretty toxic, if I'm being honest, and I split up with my ex when my son, I think I was still pregnant with my son. So I have a 20-year-old, Jacob, and a 17-year-old, Finn, and then a 6-year-old for my sins called Mia. So Finn, I was pregnant with Finn. So it was 17 years ago. And, I suddenly became the single mum. And I remember, life was tough. I had a 3-year-old and a newborn, and I remember going back to work when Finn was only maybe 4 months old and feeling incredibly guilty about that. And I had to be okay to everybody. I had to put on the face every day. I wanted my house to be spotless. I wanted everybody to think that I was okay, and I wasn't. I was really, really struggling. I never slept. And, people say, I hate it when my husband says, I didn't really sleep well last night. And I'm like, you liar. You absolute liar. You were snoring all night. I didn't sleep. You were lucky if I got a couple of hours at night. And I thought at the time, well, I'll just take up running. And I joined a running club, and I was running, and I started to competitively run, and I was doing half marathons, and I was doing all this training and getting all the miles under my belt every week. And nothing was really improving. I was physically exhausted, but I was wired. It was like my mind didn't switch off. And I was very reactive. So with the boys, I could go from 0 to 100, in a split second. And I almost had no control of, what was going to happen, what I was going to say. And then I'd instantly regret, what I said or what I did. And so kind of 9 years, I struggled for 9 years and then gave in, if you like, and went to doctors and was given medication. And then your journey starts with medication, where, I would take the medication and start to feel okay. But again, never, ever relaxed, I would feel stable, but not anxious, if you like. So I found it incredibly tough. Whenever I would stop taking the medication, I would relapse again, and I would become very anxious and depressed. And I got very sick of going up and down. And it was a doctor that said to me, why don't you try mindfulness? And at that point, nobody was talking about mindfulness. This was about 10 years ago. And I remember thinking, was that like folk burning candles in a room and stuff, hippy dippy nonsense, things like that. But something intrigued me because I signed up to a course. I spent a lot of money on a course, and I remember thinking, right, I'm going to do everything that they say. I'm not wasting all this money, and but I did. I signed up to a course, and I went to the classes, and they were lovely. We would spend 2 hours in a class in Edinburgh, breathing and relaxing and practicing different practices. And I would come home, and I was married then, and my husband would say, what did you do? And I'd be like, we breathed. I just breathed for like 2 hours. And you'd be like, can you breathe now? And I'd be like, yeah. So the classes themselves were lovely, very enjoyable, very informative, and also very relaxing. But the doctor that ran them said, coming once a week isn't going to really improve anything. This is about you practicing. This is about you starting a daily practice. And, we were given homework each week. And I'll be honest, for the first 4 weeks, I absolutely despised it because my alarm would go off and I'd think, here we go again. I'm going to sit down, and what's it going to do? And all these thoughts, about I'd be more productive if I went to Aldi's. I'd be better off running for the next 30 minutes. I've no time for this. And so 4 weeks I kind of battled to do my practice, but I stuck at it because I didn't feel great. And I remember thinking, okay, I'll give this a go. And it was roughly 4 or 5 weeks in where I felt a big shift. Not just, I remember one day sitting, practicing, and I'd notice, you notice when you're thinking and you bring your attention back to your breath. And I remember one day thinking, oh, that was really depressed thought. Well, that was another one. And then I suddenly realized, I am having a lot of depressive thoughts. It's not that I am depressed. It's that I'm thinking that. And I remember that being a real light bulb moment. And I also remember stopping dreading practice and actually setting my alarm a bit earlier in the morning, because I noticed when I did my practice how calm I felt and how much better things were, at home. So my journey with mindfulness kind of went from that to, from starting out to then becoming really intrigued by it all. I would then stop practicing for a while, and then find that I struggled again. And so then, I started to do a regular practice, and then eventually started to teach and started to changed my life in so many ways, not just, the basics like sleeping and eating, but relationships and behavior change. So before, I would just drink wine to calm down. I mean, that's the honest truth. Apart from running 13 miles in a day, I was also tanking a bottle of red wine at night, thinking, well, at least when this kicks in, I'll be able to sleep. And I did for a few hours, but practicing mindfulness made me aware I was doing that, if that makes sense. And it helped me to kind of start to do things that genuinely helped me to help myself. And so now my passion is to get this into schools, to get this out to people, because there are so many children and adults struggling. So hopefully that's something that's going to encourage you to practice, and you're not thinking, oh my goodness, she sounds a bit nuts. Okay, so we're gonna now consider the benefits of mindfulness. And I mentioned there's a huge amount of research, and if you're interested in it, there's mindfulness, research on mindfulness and anxiety, on sleep, on eating disorders, alcoholism, addiction. There's mindfulness research on ADHD, autism. There's everything. So whatever you're interested in, Google it, look it up. But there's physical, there's mental, and there's cognitive benefits from practicing mindfulness. So the physical benefits are things like practitioners tend to have lower blood pressure, and they tend to have less cortisol, going around the body, and adrenaline, lower heart rate, better immune systems, because you're not, all those bad hormones aren't kind of flying around your body. So there's physical benefits. There's also cognitive benefits. So your ability to, pay attention. I remember before not being able to read a few lines of a book. I'd read them and then go like, what was that? Go back, read them again. Go back, read them again. So it improves your ability to pay attention, to focus, your memory as well. And also, I've mentioned already, sort of mental health, so depression, anxiety, but also things like your ability to be nice to yourself, which is something a lot of us can struggle with. We're pretty good at, being compassionate to other folk, but when it comes to ourselves, we can often really struggle with that and be quite critical. We're our own worst critics, if you like. And I've already said it, it builds resilience. It helps you to bounce back when times are tough. And that's something that's really important to say, is my life is not perfect. Because I practice mindfulness doesn't mean to say that the absolute shit doesn't hit the fan. It does. It's, my life still goes like that. But instead of, if you imagine it being like a sea, instead of being wiped out by a wave, I'm able to surf the waves. I'm able to kind of go up and down without getting so overwhelmed, by it all. And that's, I think, a huge skill to have, because, and I think the younger that you can learn to what's going on inside and to manage that, the better it will have on your life outcomes, your life experiences. So for children, there is less research, if you like, but and a lot of the research, I think people often kind of go away about it and sort of, say it's like going to be the magic bullet for everything, and it's not. A lot of the research is validating the data and things, and the benefits that they found with adults. So, but what we know about mindfulness is that it improves children's ability and readiness to learn. It also improves their impulse control, so their ability to regulate themselves. It helps, I've said already, self-awareness, being aware of your actions and the impact that they can have on other people. And it helps with qualities like being kind and empathetic and compassionate. Okay. The science, I'm going to check my time. I'm not going to do a huge amount of science. The science, we can tell a huge amount now with, the neuroimaging scans or neuroimages. So they can take a scan of someone's brain that's never practiced mindfulness, and then they tend to base it on 8 hours of practice, scan the brain again. And what they can see is there's 3 main areas in the brain that are impacted, if you like. The first is right at the front, which is the prefrontal cortex. And it's the part of the brain where you have all your executive functions. So your ability to problem solve and imagine and, concentrate and think creatively. That's all up here. So when you practice mindfulness, it works the part of the brain that activates all these kind of executive functions. The other part of the brain is the amygdala, so that fight, flight, freeze. The amygdala is responsible for that, stress response. And whereas before, our ancestors, we needed to have a really strong stress response. We needed to be able to we're always on the lookout for tigers, and we needed to be able to survive, if you like. Now our stress response can be activated, because we put stuff on Facebook and nobody likes it, or what have you. The thoughts that we have can activate the amygdala into thinking that we are in danger, and that's how it feels. Our body responds to that, as it should. So the blood, goes to our extremities, and we, our heart's pumping, and we're thinking like, oh my God, nobody likes me on Facebook. But yeah, so when you practice mindfulness, the amygdala is doused, it's made smaller, okay? And then the last part is the hippocampus, and that's responsible for memory and learning. That is activated, which is really interesting when you think about children and their ability to learn at school, and how just a few minutes of daily practice can really help to regulate them. So there's no point in trying to teach kids that, are up here. It can really help to regulate them, really help to calm their nervous systems down, to help them to step out of fight, flight, freeze at times, because a lot of children are going into school, in that mode, if you like. So there's a science. Stuff is going on in the brain. Mindfulness can actually rewire the brain. So I don't mean just because you've gone through trauma. Everyone's, had tough times, and gone through things, adversities in their lives, horrific things at times. But it doesn't mean to say that that's it. That's how you'll always think about yourself. That's how you'll always think about that situation. That's how the brain isn't fixed. The brain's malleable. It can be reshaped and rewired. And mindfulness is a way of doing that. When you practice mindfulness, new neural pathways are created, which are the pathways, if you like, in the brain that allow you then to go on and make different choices and experience different behaviors. I hope that makes sense. I'm keeping it very light, so that it's not too much. Okay, let's do a practice. That was a lot of information. So please don't feel that you have to do a practice tonight. If you don't want to, just sit back and relax for a few minutes. But those of you that would like to join in, what I invite you to do is just find a comfortable position in your chair if you're sitting down. If you're not sitting down, I would say please, for the next 5 minutes, just sit down. And it will only be 5 minutes. So completely up to you if you want to close your eyes, gently close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, just lower your gaze, look down at the floor. And just the first thing I want you to do is breathe in and scrunch up your shoulders really close to your ears. And then breathe out and let your shoulders fall. We'll do that again. So breathe in and squeeze your shoulders up to your ears. And then exhale, let your shoulders fall. Lovely. And then when you're ready, what I'd like you to do is bring your attention first of all to your feet. Have your feet flat on the floor. And just see what you can notice in your feet. If you've got shoes on, or if you've got socks on, or if you're, just try to feel your feet. Bring your attention to your feet. And then bring your attention to sitting in the chair. So feel the weight of your body pushing down in the chair. Feeling heavy maybe. And then when you're ready, bringing your attention to your breath. So not trying to change your breathing in any way, we all know how to breathe. So just breathing normally, but just noticing how it feels to breathe. So you might feel the breath most in the rise and fall of the chest or the belly or the shoulders. Or you might notice that as you breathe in, the air's cooler in the nostrils, and as you breathe out, it's warmer. So it's not that we're thinking about breathing, we're trying to feel our breath. Notice our breath. And just gently and kindly, not with any force, not striving. And then what will happen is your mind will wander off and you'll start to think about maybe something that's happened or something that's about to happen. And that's okay. That's what minds do. You just gently, kindly bring your attention back once you notice to your breath, to how it feels right now in this present moment, just to breathe. And if your mind's particularly busy, then just maybe repeating, breathing in, breathing out, or counting your breath is helpful. Mind wanders, we gently, kindly bring it back again. Noticing as we breathe in, the belly rises, the chest rises, and as we breathe out, they fall. What is moving in your body when you breathe? What do you notice? And then when you're ready, bringing your attention back again to the feet on the floor. So feel your feet pushing into the floor, the carpet, whatever you're on. And then again, bring your attention to sitting in the chair. You might feel heavy on the chair. You might notice the connection of your body to the chair. And then gently open your eyes if you've got them closed, or look up. And then just take a few moments here and just ask yourself, you might want to put it on the question and answer, or you might not. You might just want to reflect. Two things. What did you notice when you did that practice? It was just a short practice. How did it make you feel? So that's two things. What did you notice and how did it make you feel? Okay. So moving on. Mindfulness at home and how to kind of, I suppose, bring in, some mindfulness practices with your children that you'll enjoy and that they'll enjoy. Okay, children naturally, I've not had a lot of experience of children that don't like to do mindfulness. They tend to take to it as long as, I suppose, it's delivered in a way that engages them. and it isn't seen as like, oh, we're doing mindfulness again, you know, because it's either too long. I mean, hopefully what you noticed there was that it's really difficult to practice mindfulness. It's actually difficult to pay attention for even 5 minutes. Obviously, with little kids, so these kids in this picture are 3 and 4. And it's actually really funny, the wee boy with the dog on his top was the one that the teacher said to me, good luck with him. He was like the hyper kid, you know, but actually he stayed for the 3 sessions that I ran. And 2 of the sessions he slept right through them. And the other session, he just kind of had this glazed look in his face. And he said afterwards, I like mindfulness, is what he called it. But anyway, you can see in their faces, I could have put so many different pictures that I have of teenagers, of older children, whatever, practicing mindfulness. If they can get over, sometimes with the older kids, the giggly bit, you know, where you're kind of like, what am I sitting doing? And if they understand why they're practicing and the fact that, you know, loads of people do it and it can really help with mental health and blah, 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 then you do tend to get that buy-in and they can then thoroughly enjoy it as we can. It just takes us a bit longer, I think, if I'm being honest. So children can really enjoy a practice. I would say main things to kind of be aware of or to ensure is to practice yourself. That is probably the main thing. If you do nothing else, if you don't ever teach your child about, you know, mindful breathing or gratitude or whatever, okay, if you practice mindfulness, how you are, your nervous system will be calmer. You will be a more regulated parent and adult, and that is better than anything that you could do with your child. And that's the truth. So if you do one thing, start a personal practice. Don't worry about your kids. Worry about yourself. Really focus on feeling and allowing, you know, and getting that calm. So that's probably the first thing I'd say is practice and model the skills, you know, that you're trying to develop in your child. You know, I watch teachers sometimes get really annoyed when they're practicing mindfulness with their children. It's not the point, you know. If you were practicing yourself, you would know how difficult it was. So there's a certain again, it's kindness, isn't it? It's kindness, it's understanding. It's not frustration when they can't do it or they don't want to do it. It's understanding. This is tough, isn't it? You know? And yeah, I've also said, second thing, set an intention to consciously connect with your child or children. You know, kids learn, kids don't have a fully developed brain and nervous system until they're in their late teens, sometimes up to mid-20s, okay? So children learn to regulate themselves, their behaviour, through a regulated adult, okay? So they require you to be regulated in order to calm themselves down. So by saying to a child, calm down, if someone says that to you, think about how it makes you feel. It doesn't work, does it? Showing them how to be calm, you know, maybe with, I don't have it here, but your glitter jar or your, you know, a snow globe. Look, this is how mummy's feeling right now. Look, my thoughts are going everywhere and I'm having such a tough time. Can you come and sit with me and breathe with me? And let's just keep breathing together. And look, that anger is still there. It's not gone away. It's now at the bottom of the jar. Look. But my goodness, I can see a bit more clearly now. I can see. And thank you for helping me to feel a bit calmer. You know, if we use things for ourselves and kind of get them involved that way, you know, and sometimes, yeah, it's props and stuff, but you've maybe seen the balls. I can't remember what they're called now, but you fold them in, and then you can inhale, expand, exhale, contract, or you can use, I've used this sometimes with Mia. It's a little bowl. Can you listen? Can you still hear it? What about now? Wow, can you hear that? Getting quieter. So bringing their attention to the one thing, so sometimes props and things are useful, but yeah, really intending to connect with your child, and I suppose knowing that you're human as well, and you're not going to be able to connect with them the whole time, and be an absolute mindful God. You're human, you will lose the plot, and that's okay. And a bit like your breathing, it's a practice. You gently, kindly, when you remember, come back again to your practice, to being mindful, to connecting. And I've said, remember that the younger the child and the more traumatized the child, the more they depend on you for to be attuned to them, to be really in sync with them, and to help to calm their nervous system. And yeah, simple things like bedtime, start a routine. So you maybe do book, and then grab their favorite teddy or beanbag or whatever they might want to put it on their tummy. This is obviously younger kids. You're not going to do this to your 17-year-old. But allowing them to take their breathing buddies on a journey. What is their breathing buddy, first of all? Is it, some kids will say giraffes, and you're like, okay, I was thinking slightly smaller. But placing their breathing buddy on their body. Let's take them for a nice ride. If they fall off, it doesn't matter. We'll just gently pick them up again, and we'll just relax, and we'll feel them moving. Can you feel your little animal falling asleep? That kind of thing. But something daily that you can just fit into your life, or a challenge. Let's have a device-free mindful meal, one a week. Let's notice what we're eating. Let's see if we can taste it. Really taste the food. Crunch it, swallow it, feel the food going down. Let's see if we can have one meal where we're noticing what we're eating. How does it taste? What's the texture? What does it smell like? That kind of thing. So it's not adding any time onto your, already precious time. And I know I get that. And yeah, give them time to reflect. So ask them, how did it make you feel? What did you notice when you did that? Can you be mindful when you're putting your jacket on, do you think? Do you think we could be mindful then? Or when would you like to, practice? And you can do it outside, you can do it inside. It's, let them take the lead as well. Okay. So that's hopefully just 3 simple-ish things that you can do with your children. So I'm nearly finished. I think, yes, I am. This is one of the posters that we offer schools. We help them to understand that health and well-being should be at the centre of everything. A child will not learn if they are not regulated. So we have posters and things that we can send if you're interested. And yeah, and that's really it. Please stay in touch if you would like information, or if you're interested in having us at your school or anything. Please just stay in touch. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and that's my email. Okay, so